and start all over again for everybody. So
and
all of those
recording is working, Phil.
For all of those who don't want to listen to that dribble all over again, just grab a quick cup of coffee. I just want to give the context for those who will only get the recording. So welcome, everyone. Today's session, the experts in the session, or the kind of master mentors, we've got Rob Dryden from MTM, Sunrail representing them. We've got Tom McKune from SAICI. We've got Friedrich Slabbert from SAICI and Sciendium, and we've got Johan Pienaar, who's our very, very senior reviewer, and then you've got little old me. Kim's not going to be able to make it today. Jenny was not able to make it, our new structural engineering, senior structural engineer. She wasn't able to make it at short notice. So what we decided today is that we wouldn't do a training session, or we wouldn't run through theory anymore. We would actually do a deep dive into the reality of what happens when you send something to ECSA and it goes through the process and it comes back in a way that you weren't expecting. And what do you do next? We've got a real life example of that, and Takalani's been brave enough to share her experience, and we've got all of the experts in the panel who can advise Takalani what to do next. But what it does show you in Takalani's experience is that there was someone that I think Friedrich, Tom, myself, Kim, and everybody would have put money on getting through, and it hasn't gone through smoothly. So she got through the technical review, which is all the documentation, but the professional interview has suggested that there's she has to have another bite at the cherry, and we'll talk around that. And Tom and Friedrich can explain a little bit more. Maybe Johan can explain a lot more. It's not something that I've actually had a hell of a lot of experience with. So, but it's in itself, it's a useful learning experience for all of you, that when you have done a submission and you get the welcome letter to say, thank you for your technical submission, this is when your date is for your professional interview, do not take your foot off the gas, because you need to make sure that in that interview, they're going to look at you. If there isn't a technical appraisal, in other words, they don't ask you to actually verify that some of the work is yours, or you really did do that work, which also happens to people. If you go from application directly into professional review, then that's a good step, but it doesn't mean that you're home and dry. So we'll learn from Takalani. Thank you, Takalani, for being brave. And then we've had 3 candidates. I've been rapidly grabbing everything together over here. As I've mentioned, we've got the unfortunate situation with Louise's husband continues to be in a critical condition. He comes back and then he goes down again, and all of that sort of kind of thing. So Louise is in and out. And so we are processing things at the speed of what we can really realistically get done. Johan's being fantastic. He's turning things around very quickly. And Johan's feedback is always so valuable. But what is interesting in the feedback, and that I've picked up with Tom and Friedrich and Kim and myself, is that all of us as very experienced engineers, some of us transport and traffic, some of us structural. What's interesting, and Johan, who's a very, very experienced engineer and approaches it from a non-engineering point of view, he approaches it from a very experienced assessor point of view with an intimate knowledge of the ECSA assessment process, the RO standards, and what works and doesn't want to work with the assessors. So you've got a variety of, let's call it professional, experienced opinions. And what's interesting is we all don't always agree 100%. And it's not that it's anyone's wrong. We just have different ways of approaching it. And that is the reality of what the ECSA assessors are confronted with. Because they're the mentors and the supervisors and the referees that guide all the candidates are in different businesses. They're in different organizations. They have different relationships with their candidates. Some are very close, some are very distant, some are from, almost external to the organization. And so what you have is you have very different nuances in the how to interpret things. So what I thought today would be, and I've sort of ratified it with my colleagues, is that we would approach it as an open learning forum. And I'm hoping that if there's any mentors in here, and if there aren't, that this is shared with the mentors as well, because it'll give them alternative ways of looking things. So that's really the objective over here. So to Unathi and to Mosa and to Kolofelo, Thank you very much for giving us permission. Your submissions are, in my view, really, really very nice. There's obviously always room for tweaking and adjustments. Johan's been good enough to turn things around very quickly, and I've loaded everything into CHQ. So if you want to go and have a look at it while I'm talking, you can do so in CHQ. It's in the communicator, and I've put it there, and I've uploaded the documents from each of the candidates, and I've uploaded either Tom's feedback or Johan's feedback directly into that. And then there's also feedback. There's also some new documents from Calvin Helens from MTM. And there's some questions and requests from Rob Dryden, which we need to get to as well. And we'll get through as much as we possibly can during the course of the day. And whether you alternative route, academic route, or normal route, I think the gist of the story and the intention behind this session should be of value to all of you, hopefully. So what I'm going to try and do in the short space of time with my colleagues is I think I've welcomed everybody, hopefully. If there's anybody that hasn't been welcomed and feels they need a welcome, please put your hand up and we'll get that sorted. Tom, please tell me if there's a welcome needed. I did invite Sakadi as well, the CEO of SAICI. Tom, I'm not sure if you see Sakadi in there. I suggested that Sakadi join from time to time as the CEO of SAICI, and who's the principal contracting body with EWC to here. So although Tom represents SAICI here, at the end of the day, the buck stops and the contract was signed with the CEO. And so I've suggested that she pops in. So if she's here, welcome, Sakadi. If you're not, if you listen to the recording, a double recorded welcome.
Phil, she's not in, but her, I, and the president sat through 3.5 hours of ECSA President's Forum this morning. So she's probably had a guts full of ECSA for the day. But if she pops in, I'll let you know she's in.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, okay. All right. Thanks for that. Okay, so let me put this fair and square on the table. We're in slightly uncharted territory because there's no formalized agenda. I'm going to sort of lead the conversation, and then I'm going to be very dependent on Tom, Friedrich, and Johan to have the conversation and to lead the conversation where it goes. And what I really would like to happen is that the candidates involved are actively involved in the conversation, clarifying what we think is missing or what we think could be done differently. But I don't want it to be just a one-sided session where the rest of the candidates, be they from MTM, be they from an academic space, be they from the Women in Water cohort, please clarify anything that you want. And if you want, you can stick it in the chat so that we've got it there. We can find it later if we don't get to it now. If there's anything that's simple, I'm sure Tom can knock them off, or Friedrich can knock them off, or even Johan can knock them off in the chat if necessary. I can then circle back to it. So please don't see this as a one-sided, a unilateral flow of information. Very important that you all get as much as you can. The window's open, as you know. It's open for 2 months. If you are ready, and we think you are ready, and we tell you are ready, then the quicker you get your application in, the better, because that's when the assessors, they're going to get more and more swamped as the window comes towards the end of the window. There's still some outstanding clarifications needed from ECSA on some of the things with regards to the academics and the alternative route. Tom will clarify that if we need to clarify, or we'll have an offline clarification on that process. But for the Women in Water, many of you are looking really very close to being ready. So the first question is what to do if the MASELULEKANE team thinks you're not ready. So without naming anybody in this, there are 1 or 2 people in the various cohorts over here who are not ready. They've got a set of circumstances that are not ideal, and this team of experts are not able to assist them to get over the line in the time required. They've got a variety of different things happening. One, international qualifications. And so the first part of the process is they have to go through the education review. We have no control over that. That is an ECSA process, and that just has to happen. So that can happen in the process. There are some people who are struggling with mentors, referees, supervisors, etc. there is one particular candidate whose mentor was actually thrown in the towel. So we're working now, without mentioning names. One of the candidates has just been orphaned by their mentor, and we don't need to go into the reasons for it, but it does put that candidate in jeopardy. And so he, she, or otherwise is quickly scrambling around to find a replacement mentor. And there are complications with that, which go beyond just the relationship, because we now have to resubmit things to CETA, EWCETA, about the commitment, and we have to do a whole lot of admin and paperwork. So in the background, we are wrestling with many things over here. And then there are also some candidates who very wisely have taken themselves out of a Manzi 1 and a Manzi 2 through the guidance of their mentors or themselves, and have put themselves back into a Manzi 3 or 4 and 5 to be ready for the Jan-Feb 2025. Some of you may even decide to be in the sort of the July-August one next year, but this program would have terminated by then unless EWCETA comes to the party. But what is really important is if you're not ready, and someone's pushing you to do it, etc., you're going to possibly struggle. And what it might do is it might set you further back, because if the assessors don't like what they see and they really think you're not ready, they could send you back for a year or two, where in fact you may only need 6 months. So it's not one of those things where you take a chance and you kind of suck it and see, because it may be detrimental. Now, Johan and Tom and Friedrich, I'm going to ask them to comment on that. Tom, Johan, Friedrich, would you concur with my advice there, that if we tell the candidates and the mentors that we don't think they're ready for this submission or the next submission, should they take a chance or should they wait until they are ready? Tom?
Yeah, look, I'll go first. I mean, what we are doing is we are looking at the applications the same way that the ECSA appointed assessors will look at it. If we feel that there is gaps in either their knowledge areas, but more importantly in meeting an outcome, then it would be unfair of us not to say to them, look, you are lacking in outcome X, Y, and Z. And then obviously part of the process is to suggest ways that they can fill in gaps, what they can do, how they can do it, and hopefully with the collaboration of the immediate supervisors and mentors when they can do it. But I think to take a chance and assume that you're going to get people, I mean, you've used Takalani as an example, you know, Jones, yourself, myself, Friedrich, and various others, Kim, we were all in and we all gave feedback and thought, well, Takalani's going to sail through. The fact that she hasn't could be for other reasons, but, you know, it means, you know, even when we do say apply, there is still risk attached. So if we say don't apply, delay it 6 months, I think that's the best advice that we can give somebody. It's not going to influence the IDOEW, because X is well aware that it's not something will be all hunky-dory by 1 April 2025. There's a process that will follow. So as long as somebody is on the way to getting registered, then in terms of their work, etc., they are fine, and they continue to have their work signed off by a registered professional in accordance with the Act in any case.
Tom, thank you for that. Johan, do you concur with Tom and I on that?
I fully concur. Thanks, Tom. I also don't feel that people should take chances. Rather get the basics in place and gradually build up on more experience or whatever is needed. So I fully agree.
Thanks, Johan. Friedrich, any wisdom from yourself, sir?
I'm always saying we as organizers, collaborators, helping the young people or even more experienced people but not registered, we need to always follow the ethical route. We have the experience. We have been registered for many years. We know what is required. And often people have said to me, Friedrich, but I want to register now. Then I say, but in terms of the documentation that I've seen, you cannot, because outcome X or whatever is not there, your responsibility level is insufficient. we have the experience, and we are making a informed decision, which is an ethical advice. And that is, so if somebody is not ready, it is not because we don't like the person. It is because we believe that 6 months later is much better than 1 year later. Because if they are declined, you lose 6 months. Rather spend the 6 months and spend the time with another mentor or an additional mentor to help you. And this is what we are trying to do. And then have the best chance to do it the first time. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Friedrich. Okay, so that's good. The four musketeers, we agree with each other, so there's a win. We can chalk that up. And there was no pre-preparation or bribery involved in that. So I really think it is in everyone's best interest to if you're not ready. It's such a big step, and it opens so many doors, and it's such a good thing. Don't go backwards because you try to bridge too far. So thank you for that, and we will be honest with you. I mean, I've even got emails without mentioning any names or which organization they come from, saying that my boss or my client says that they expect me to register. So there's kind of like external forces saying, you know, this is just a formality, it's just a process, and it isn't. And you'll know with ECSA, with the ID OEW, and you'll know with all the pressure that's on the built environment because of the tragedies with collapses and things, there's a big spotlight on the quality, and not just the quantity, but the quality of young professionals coming out. So that's, we can leave that point, and we will always give you what we really think is the best advice where we can do that. Now, that leads me on to the next point. And once again, no names, no pactoral, but you will know who you are, and if you aren't one of the ones that is sort of involved in this conversation, then think about not becoming one. And what I'm saying here, that sounded like a very convoluted sentence, but what I'm getting to do here is what to do with the feedback. And we've prepared just to show you kind of over the page. We've sent this to everyone for the purposes of preparing, and I'll go through it in a bit more detail just now. But what it does do over here at the bottom, it says just confirm that your workplace mentors, your workplace supervisors, your workplace referees have looked at it, and that, you know, if necessary, if they're signing off that they are in good standing, and they got. So you'll see a great submission that I've got from, I think it was Mosa Mafani, who's sent there, and she's confirmed that her mentors have looked at it, the other people, Kolofelo, etc., to say, my mentors have looked at it, my supervisor have looked at it, it's all been signed off, this is it, this is as good as it gets. And from our perspective, that's the quality we want to get. And then we'll have a look at it and we'll give you feedback. But you won't get another bite at the cherry after that, because this is not like an iterative teaching you TERs kind of thing. If you've gone through the process and your own internal mentors and your own internal supervisor have helped you with, you know, whatever it is, writing reports, layout, word count, spelling, grammar, writing professionally, whatever it is, interpreting the tables within the RO2 standard so that you are addressing the nuances of complex engineering or broadly defined engineering or well-defined engineering, and you are using the right vernacular and the wording that is used in the table 1 of the RO2, which is looking for you to start, you know, by observing and participating and then eventually coming through to contributing and performing. It's looking for those words, not other words. And if your mentors have gone through that and they think this is the very best, then it comes to us and we're taking that as this is your final submission. If we still point you in the direction to do a few more things, we expect you and your mentor and your referee and your supervisor to take that feedback, to implement that feedback, and then submit. It won't come for another bite of the cherry. There are too many people and there are too few of us to be able to do it. And there are 1 or 2 candidates from time to time there where it's too much of an iterative process. And we need to get to a point where the experts and the short amount of time that is available is applied to many more people and not tied up with incremental kind of improvement. So I'm saying that without any pointing fingers at anybody. It is really, really important. And you'll see some of the feedback that we're getting from the candidates, which is really encouraging. They're taking responsibility, they're making sure they're people. And so to all of those who have not submitted, I'm going to just reinforce that, is it's really important that your team in your company, your mentor, your supervisor, your manager, and more importantly, your referee. So we shouldn't see the referee's report, and neither should you. That's a confidential thing. And the referee's report is submitted, or 2 or 3 referees' support is submitted under separate email and cover, etc., etc. And you shouldn't have access to that. It goes directly to ECSA, and that's the quality check, that there's an independent, honest, registered person that's having a look, and that they've ratified that they think you're good to go. So please take it seriously. And to all the men and the women and the boys and the girls and the candidates and the engineers, please make sure that when you submit stuff for our reviewers, that you submit your best game. We want your A game. We don't have the time or resource to do it incrementally. If you want to do incremental, we want to help you. And then you must send it to us, and we'll bring it into one of the Wednesday sessions. And then we'll incrementally all have a look at it and do it there. But we don't have the time to one-on-one review something and then keep checking it for little kind of incremental bits and pieces. So the incremental sort of trench warfare, Stalingrad, 1943, bit by bit, that's for the Wednesday sessions. When you send it to us, and we want to send it to Johan or Friedrich or Kim or Phil or Tom or Jeannie, we need to know that they're not going to send it back to us because there's just poor English or poor spelling or excessive word count, etc., etc. Okay, so I hope that hasn't offended anybody, but that must be the rule as we get very, very busy. So what I want to do, Tom, sorry, that's the law according to Phil, but you might have a different take. Any thoughts from yourself there?
No, I think at the end of the day, our job is to see whether the submission that is being sent to ECSA is submission ready. Our job is not to actually help the individual. And in fact, I think it's unethical to write somebody's report for them or to do major editing. These are not students that we are critting a provisional design on. It's their submission. So it's got to be the immediate supervisor and their internal mentor or external mentor, where they know what they do, that has the first bite at the cherry to explain whether they are happy or not happy that the submission is ready. Then we get involved, because we don't have the time to go and edit each report. We're going to read through it the way an assessor would read through it and make a conclusion. And obviously, if we're then reading a poorly drafted or worded report, or a report that's 25,000 pages long, when it's limited to 140, whatever it is, then obviously it's not going to go down well. And it's going to take too much of our time on one when we're trying to possibly review 20 to 25. So I think you're 100% on the button. I mean, the old days, and Johan will know about it, the PR Rangers used to have to write 2 essays as part of their professional review. One, they could pick the topic for themselves, and 2, the other was an uncited topic right there and then on the spot to show that they could write. So I think your point is very well taken. And if we are now having to teach professionals how to write properly, even if it's a second language or a third language, then we are defeating the object of the exercise. Our job is to just check, is this submission likely to succeed? And if not, why not? And what can be done to fix it prior to submission?
Yeah, 100%, Tom. And I'm not sure if Friedrich or Johan want to come in there, but I mean, I've had emails from Kim just saying, Phil, I can't do this. And I've had stuff where I've had to send it back to say, look, you know, you've got Grammarly, you've got editor, you've got spell check, it's not fair to send us stuff that is so poorly put together. And one, it doesn't even make an English sentence. And secondly, that it just really hasn't had any love or care attached to it. So we don't have to belabor the point. I think we're probably all on the same thing there. When you send it to us for review, it must be your A game, and it must be your mentor's A game, your supervisor's A game. And it would be good to know that your referee had a look at it. We don't want to see your referee's report, but it would be really good that if your referee just gave us their thumbprint and said, that's it, that this is about as good as you're going to get from us, We'll have a look at it. We'll give you either Shanana and its thumbs up, or we'll give you some guidelines and or some pointers and things, and then the ball is in your court. It won't come back, and it's unlikely it will be able to get back into the queue for another iteration, because we've given the best. So what I want to do is, and so Tom, we've agreed between you and me and Kim is that we will the one or two people that we think are really, they need a much longer bite at the cherry. We'll offline, we will communicate directly with them. We won't do it in this forum, and we'll have a conversation with them directly, and we'll need to manage the admin and whoever the sponsor is, and so that they are aware of it as well. But that's another part of the process. But I think it is an important part is that we start to be, what we've certainly learned is that in any future programs, we have to be a lot more circumspect as to who's coming on and who's getting in. It's really unfortunate for a candidate to have a mentor right, before the on the last lap, just to pull out. There's obviously something big happened, but it's really unfortunate, and not for us to judge, but it now puts that mentee sort of in jeopardy. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share screens, and we're going to go through the information that we have, and then we have a sort of an open discussion. I just wanted to go through, everyone has been sent this, and some of you may not be able to comply with all of it, but what the reviewers are saying is, we don't know you very well. We haven't worked with you. We don't know your background or history, and we're going to get something from you for the first time. It would be useful if you had done a career experience audit, which was the process at the beginning of the session. Everyone's done it. Some of the people, like the MTM guys, did incredibly good jobs of theirs, and some of them were reporting on 3 years of work. So it was a good mind harmonizing experience. The woman in water, we were all very rushed getting into this thing, and then we've got these dates coming ahead of us, and I'm not sure how many of you were able to do it. If you did do a career experience audit, please also attach that, because it just gives us we can have a quick glance at looking at where you started work, what kind of work were you in, have you been in water, or have you been bouncing around between every discipline in civil engineering and partial project management and site supervision and all sorts of different things. And it gives us very quickly an ability to assess whether we think you have completed what's generally known as the sort of the project life cycle. Have you completed the project life cycle, or have you had sufficient exposure to all of the elements of a project life cycle, which mean that you can comply with the 11 outcomes, whether it's at well-defined, broadly defined, or complex engineering status? That's useful. The second one, which is the learning gap analysis. These are not ECSA processes. So if you haven't done these, you're not in trouble. There's no problem with it at all. It's part of the mentoring for success process. We always do this with our candidacy programs, because we come to work with graduates who are either working with our clients for a long time or have just been recently employed. We have no background with them at all, and we just like to know where they've come from in terms of their experience. If they're now working in water, have they always been in water? What level of conversation are we expecting from them with regards to the discipline that they're now in versus where they've got most of the experience? And they're not, the learning gap. So the learning gap here is identified, and it's mapped 100% against the 11 outcomes. And it's obviously mapped also against the degree of responsibility. We noticed a glitch in CHQ, which we're busy fixing. It doesn't allow an input into the learning gap analysis, which we will have fixed very shortly. So everybody that's in our Manzi 3, 4, and 5, you will be able to use it. You don't have to use the spreadsheet. You will be able to use it within CHQ, but the spreadsheet's fine. And if I send a whole lot of stuff to Johan, he can just quickly put it aside. He can scan the career experience audit or the learning gap analysis, and it gives him contextual understanding of what he's about to read. It's a value add that we do, and if you haven't done it, it's not a showstopper at all. That's why I've said there, if available. But we do need your engineering report, because that's the important thing that we really do need to assess. That's the thing that's going to get you through or not. And then obviously that needs to be supported by the number of TERs you've done. And that'll be anywhere from 1 or 2, maybe up to 5 or 6 or 7 TERs even. Depending on if you are on a very mature candidate, like many of you are, you will have done TEOs as well. But you don't need multiple TEOs, and you certainly don't need one for, years 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, etc. You can have a TEO that covers multiple years if in those early stages you were just operating at degree of responsibility A and B. And the TEOs there, you can have it, they can be multi-year, and it's just to show the assessor that you were involved in engineering from a long time ago, and you are able to verify that you've been gaining in experience, etc. But it doesn't require the same amount of detail, as you know. And then all your training and experience summary, if you've got certificates, if you've got stuff that you can attach to it, and which gives verification, you'll be getting CPD from many of the sessions that we're running with you, etc. That's really important. And then on the education side of things, if you do have a foreign qualification, or if you're coming through on the alternative route, or you're technologist and you have to do the B18 EDR, then that's important that you do that. And you'll remember we did one with Jones Molasani, who took us through Calvin and Grants, and both of them I thought were written up particularly well, and Jones gave us lots of guidance. And so if that applies to you, if you go into CHQ, you'll see all of Jones's feedback. You'll see the original submissions that were made there, and you can go to school on it there. So that was very useful. And then we just want you to say in your email, just to verify that this submission that you're sending to us for our reviewers has been checked off by your mentor. So I'm going to stop on that, and I'm going to go to CHQ. Why is that coming up? Sorry, where's CHQ? It's the world's busiest thing. Okay. Tom, before I go leaping in here, is there anything from your side?
No, I think the status is the same. The one thing that did come back from the ECSA President's Forum this morning is they reiterated the window open and close times. In fact, Bridget made a mistake when she reported. She said end of August, and she was corrected. So it is the 15th of August. They are thinking of in 2025, not that that affects our immediate cycle, of having 3 windows. And the reason for that is they are busy testing that the online application process for registration, like for candidates, will be fully up and running. Not quite sure what that's going to look like and how it's going to work. But other than that, she said, the strange thing is a lot of the issues that we've been articulating where there's confusion between qualifications and competence, in other words, the accords versus the agreements, is coming out of other VAs as well. And I think the thing we've previously explained about the ECSA matrix of registered applications, in order to see where is the problem. Is the problem an outcome problem? Is it a discipline problem? Is it a subdiscipline problem? To try and get trends, they still are not keeping track of that type of data. And I think it's something we're going to have to, from a VA perspective, almost force ECSA to do. And having said that, when you look at Takalani's, and the response from ECSA is that during the moderation process, now after your technical review, there's a moderation process by an independent reviewer. After your professional review, there is a moderation process by an independent reviewer. In that process, there is an inference, when you use the word in the interest of fairness, that infers there was some degree of unfairness in the process. And if that's the case, that is quite scary, because if ECSA is telling us that their own process was unfair, then why don't they fix the process rather than make the poor victim, Takalani in this case, have to be subjected to another professional review? But I think that's something, Phil, I will certainly take offline with Fran. But other than that, I think we are still, aiming high, but shooting a little bit in the dark to try and see if what Jones has interpreted and what I've interpreted is how we will have the outcome. We can only know by testing the system to see that it works.
100%, Tom. And so there's a lot of stuff. Tom, this is something. So now we're going into the sort of the open forum. Tom, can you see my CHQ screen?
Yes, we can, Phil.
see.
We
Great.
can see.
Okay, so
You're in Communicator, eh?
you're in Communicator, yeah.
Yeah.
So Tom, this was a question that we actually still need to answer. It came in from Chweni Dinyeki. Is Dinyaka? Is Chweni in the session? If anybody, can anybody see? Chweni, are you here? No. Okay, so we can't deal with that. So Tom, when we get a chance, this is something it's still on the sort of outstanding thing. I didn't fully understand how she got into the program because she's questioning things to do. That's the wrong one. Sorry. She's questioning things with regards to her qualifications. And I did send it to you, but I think we need to connect with her. I just want to check again. Tom, can you see if Chweni Dinyaka is in the group?
She's not in the meeting.
She's not in the session, Phil, but I'll go and have a look at it on CHQ. And then I'll go back to the repository. She, I think, is an industry candidate, not an EWCTA candidate.
Okay, all right. We just need to, this remains outstanding. And I wasn't sure how we ended up with an EWCTA candidate who had uncertainty around the actual qualification. Okay, so maybe you're right. Maybe it's industry. Okay.
Sorry, Phil, I'm seeing that she's got a B.Tech in construction management. Tom can correct me, but this is a degree that's not accredited by ECSA for engineering registration. It's a construction management degree.
Yeah, Johan, what we don't know is whether it's a B.Tech civil brackets construction management.
Okay.
Or if it's the B.Tech construction management that follows on for the building diploma. That's what we need to go and check. But she does say she started with the TVET, which is an N6. So there's a diploma in between the two missing in any case. But let me check and I will revert, Phil.
Thanks, Johan. This is where, I mean, you get experts on the minimum qualifications, and that's just so important. Okay, so Tom, this is one we still need to work on and resolve there. There's also a whole lot of resubmissions from Calvin and Rob, and Tom, you and I have discussed that. You'll have a look at that, and between you and Friedrich, when you have a go there, we need to start looking at the submissions from the other MTM guys as well. So the Grants and the Arons and the and the Justins and all the rest of it. So we get all of that done. I keep going back to there. Okay, sorry, let me go down here. Okay, Rob gave a whole lot of feedback. Okay, so this is now Musa Mafani. So this is one of the bits of feedback. And so I say, if you can't read it, says, hi all, we have the first EWCTA Women in Water request for document reviews with the MASELULEKANE team. And I have their permission to drop into CHQ, Kim, Tom, Yanko, Jenny. I think there's a lot of potential benefit learning from each other. Okay, so this is my information over here. And then there was information that was dropped in here. And Johan was concerned is that he didn't have enough information. It was my fault. I didn't send through enough information. So that was where the table came out of. And since then, Moza has given us a substantial other information. I'm not sure if Johan, have you had a chance yet to have a look at the resubmission from Moza Mafani?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. So we're waiting for Johan's there. And that's a good case, Moza and others, is that if we don't get sufficient information for the reviewers to feel that they can make a good call, then it's just going to get delayed. So this was, I put it there, and we subsequent to that we have received the other information. So here's a very comprehensive bit of feedback over here, and I must just find Johan's feedback from there. There was okay, sorry, this is just going slightly off piste over here. Kim Tim has also sent through a very well-written submission over here. So just be aware that it exists. There's a very well-written submission. It's nothing to do with this program. It's a previous program.
Okay, Phil, we must just caution that's a PREng application.
Yeah.
So
yes.
those that are doing PR Tech-Eng or PR Tech-Knee, you need to fully understand there's quite a difference in terms of the way they are articulated.
Yeah. So for Takalani and that it might be too late, but it's
sure. And I think in the EWC2 group there are a lot of PREng applications. Nadira and others are all PREng, so for them it will be a very useful reference guide.
It's particularly good because Kim was the mentor. So okay, so here I've made a note there on the MTM one. So Tom and Friedrich, if you could have a look at those. But here's some feedback. So what I've put here is hi team. Here's an example of a pre-application submission from Unathi in Bengwana with the review feedback. So here's Johan's feedback. Which I'm just going to read if you're struggling to read it on a small screen. So, and it's very useful. So, and then Tom, you can, Friedrich, you can, Johan, you can explain it in a bit more detail. But I think it's very useful because over time, different people suggest different kinds of writing styles. I, for one, have often advised candidates that instead of writing verbose text, bulletizing some things is relevant, but Johan's picked up over here that an excessive use of bullets turns it into kind of like a job description as opposed to writing. So here's Johan's feedback over here to what is otherwise a very good submission, actually. So the narrative of Unathi's TERs are, in my view, not corresponding with the good engineering report which he has provided. Okay, so Johan's recognizing great work, but there are bits in the TERs that could do with a little bit of tender loving care. She elaborates too much by making use of a bullet point writing style to inform ECSA's assessors of all the tasks she was involved in without indicating what her personal planning, design, implementation, commissioning, operations and closure duties were of the project she contributed to actually entailed. In this regard, she makes use of 16 bullet points in her TER1, 22 bullet points in her TR2, and about 60 bullet points in her TER3, which is almost like a job description of her work. In my view, she does not describe exactly what her personal role in projects or contribution to the many tasks which she lists in her TERs. It would appear as if she always was part of a team and so far has never been a team leader. Now, that's a very important bit of insight that an assessor is going to pick up. And what Johan's alluding to. So I'm just going to finish reading it, and I'm going to hand the mic over to Johan because this is great feedback, and this is very relevant to everyone. Although a job title is not necessarily indicative of an applicant's level of operation, it may raise some eyebrows that her job title still remains technician 8 years after obtaining her BTech in electrical engineering. This may result in her professional growth being questioned. She also did not indicate any leadership roles which she performed during her career thus far. She, however, has prepared a good engineering report which may result in a positive outcome of her application. Kind regards, Johan. So I'm going to give the mic to Johan if you would like to unpack that a little bit more. And I'm hoping that Unathi is in the session. Unathi, are you here with us this afternoon?
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks for sharing this with us. Johan, could you take us through this in your thinking and give us some guidance, and then Tom and Friedrich, if you could come in with your thinking on the use or misuse.
Before Johan goes, can we just check in Unathi's case, are there only TERs? There's no TEO of some of the experience then followed by TERs. Are there only TERs?
That's right. If my recollection is correct, she's only got 8 years of experience.
Yeah, then TERs would cover it. Yeah, and I agree. Yeah.
Can I explain something also? In my
Yes, please.
TR, yes, I applied for BTech for a technologist, but the experience showed it's from when I was a technician. It includes the experience when I was having my diploma. So the one that talks more is, so I got my BTech in 2021, which is 3 years now. So the other ones, the TR1 and 2, they just cover to show that I've been working, because if you check TR1, 2, and 3, the level of responsibilities have changed. Also in the organogram is showing how I've been changing throughout. So the 8 years is not necessary for the BTech. It's just from when I started my career.
Right. Now, that even complicates the matter even more, seeing it from my side. What I always try to explain to candidates is when you write your TRs, tell us your story. Where do you come from? There was no indication, if my memory is correct, that you indicated that you are writing on your national diploma experience, because you said it's a BTech degree, and I just accepted that the BTech degree was obtained in 2000 and when was that? 16.
2016, yes.
Yeah. So that was your national diploma level experience that you explained. And I think it's a bit of a high jump with just 3 years of experience as after your BTech to apply for PR Tech Inch. But even if your national diploma level of experience was commensurate or at par with what is expected at a broadly defined level, then you might get through. But the main problem I have is you didn't indicate what your personal role was. Where did you start off? You know, you're working in the water environment, but you're an electrical engineer. So you explained that you, no, am I mixing it up? Yeah, you're in an electrical engineering, but the electrical engineering part is the computer engineering. So my advice would be have a very good look at discipline-specific guidelines for both civil engineering and electrical engineering, and that will guide you in your area of operation. So, and you can't make use of bullet points elaborately. You have to write a paragraph or two in TR style, even if it was at diploma level, in order to show professional growth. And then another problem with the professional growth, as I've explained there, your position in the organogram, it doesn't seem if there was any movement, you know, that you've had 2 people under you at least, there were enough above you, but and you still hold that title of technician. So that in a certain sense will tell the assessors that you were just operating at technician level, even if you have obtained your BTech 3 years ago. So that will be my comment on this.
Thanks, Johan. Tom and Friedrich, you haven't had the chance, I don't think, of downloading this and having a quick look at it, but you picked up the gist of the story, and you've also heard from Unathi on the sort of explaining. Sorry, I've gone all the way down over here again. Any thoughts from yourself there on, Tom, especially with regards to the time between the diplomas and the BTech and the challenges between water and electrical engineering? Or Friedrich, anything from yourself?
So Phil, if I've understood Johan's overview, the applicant obtained their diploma in 2016, but only finished their BTech finally in 2021. So there's quite a big gap between obtaining the initial base PR Technique qualification. A lot depends on the kind of work exposure and experience. A lot of people don't do a BTech, but progress into the working in the technology field. What is encouraging for me is Johan is basically being very complimentary about the engineering report, which must be demonstrating that she is achieving the various outcomes one would assume predominantly at level E. Now it's a question of working back from that. Yes, you applied the 3-year criteria from when you got the diploma, but that doesn't mean the experience whilst you were studying and prior to studying. And I think, again, I've not looked at the organograms. It does worry me that Johanna's picking up in the TERs. And look, I think it's partly all of our problem. We tend not to try and write about ourselves, as we've stressed repeatedly. You know, I think to articulate from the bullet points are more applicable to TEOs than they are to the TERs must be like writing a narrative. It's got to be 100%. In a narrative form.
Yeah.
So it's not difficult to convert bullets, but obviously you can still have sub-bullets where you say, which would have included the following responsibilities, and then you list the responsibilities as bullets. But I haven't read it, so I'm just, I think, yes, 3 years immediately after BTEC is very, very borderline. Not many get it in that, but I can't comment without knowing what happened in the total of the 8 years and how did they progress from post the diploma to becoming more responsible and operating in a technologist role. Obviously, electrical engineers is in support of either a bulk treatment works or wastewater treatment works or similar. So it's your pumps and your motors and your whatever else is involved in the water processing work. So that's the reason why it's connected to the water side. But from an electrical perspective, if Eskom switches the lights off, we don't get very much done. If the electricals don't keep the pumps going, then nothing works and a water treatment works either.
Yeah, 100%. So Unathi, I think that's the moral of the story is listening to what Johanna and Tom is saying here is that you've made a very good effort on your engineering report and you may be seen a little bit wanting on your TERs. And the use of bullets is generally very useful in the TEO, where your training and experience outline is more than 10 years, and you are just identifying. Where I've always suggested to candidates, if you use some bullet points, is if in a particular outcome on a TER, you're explaining how you perform certain work on a particular project, and whichever the outcome is, whether it's outcome 4 and it's managing engineering projects, and you're explaining to them what your role is in managing that project and what the implications are, and you're showing that you are practicing sound engineering judgment and you understand the cause and effect of all the dynamics of managing an engineering site, etc. And then you may want to use 2 or 3, maybe 4 bullets maximum to identify very high level tasks or roles or functions within that. But you have to tell the story, as Johan says. You have to explain in TER language as defined in the tables, where it gives you very clear indicators on the competency indicators. For technologists, it'll show you under the competence indicators, explain it like this, or even the range statements. It's very, very clear. So I hope that's helped. I think you sound like you on borderline from a timing point of view, but Johan's impressed with your engineering report. So my suggestion, I think, would be to go back and visit your TERs and tell the story and be very circumspect as to how you bulletize things. And then hopefully that you're good to go. I think you must share this information. I'm not sure if your mentors are in the session. Please share this feedback with your mentors and get them to help you to write the story. And make sure you use the R02 document. Look at the table 1 at the very close to the beginning, and how you use the terminology of performed or contributing as you're going up the degrees of responsibility. And then look at the discipline specific, as Johanna suggested. And make sure that if you are from an electrical background working on a water engineering, that you're making the crossover and you're making it very simple to understand what the hell an electrical engineer is doing in this. They're not expecting you to see that you're defining a backwater profile or a hydraulic jump or anything. You have to explain the role of the electrical engineering or the computer engineering within the greater context of a water engineering environment. So, Unathi, that's about the feedback that I think is appropriate for now. Any outstanding questions from you?
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
I hope that's been of use. Johan, thank you for that. That was good. Okay, now we're going to go into, I'm just conscious of the time. Here's some feedback on Kolofelo's submission. You will see the comment on giving us a full submission. Hi, Louise. Kolofelo prepared good TERs as well as a good engineering report. She unfortunately did not include her TER for the period December 2023 to current. So there's a big hole. And as we mentioned before, the assessors don't like gaps in the submission. So, however, I trust that the contents of her TER for this latter period would be at level E as indicated in her other TERs. I wish her well with the application. So the moral of the story here for Kolofelo and others is just make sure you give us everything, because the things that Johan's going to do is he's going to deal with it as if you're in a real assessment process. He's going to look for holes, and he's going to look for the things that are going to trip you up. So I hope that I hope you can close that. Kolofelo, if you're in the session, would you like to talk to Johan's feedback quickly? Johan, are you here, Kolofelo?
Yes, I'm here. I just had a bits and pieces of what you said because I had network issues. Can you hear me?
I didn't hear that. Sorry, could you repeat that?
I was saying yes, I'm here, but I heard bits and pieces of what you said about my report, and I would like a review. I just heard the last part where you spoke about if I would like to discuss this now.
Yeah. So, have you got any final questions? Did you see Johan's feedback over here? You seem to be missing the final TER from the December 2023 to current.
Oh, the reason is I think in the last session it was said that if let's say I take a break, so so number 5 and number 6, or number 4 and 5, the last ones, I took a break because of maternity leave, but I returned to the same project. So should I split it?
Yes.
No, what we're trying to find out is when you take maternity leave, you can account for that by explaining it in the summary of experience, that you were not at work between X and Y. What Johanna's asking is, was that maternity leave from December last year until now, or was it in the 3 or 4 years prior to December 2023? Where is the experience you've gained since December last year, or was that when you were on maternity leave?
Okay, so maternity leave was last year, September, up until then December, I went back to work to continue with the same project that I was working on before I took the maternity leave. So
now then you must report on that. You see, what Johanna's saying is that what ECSA do is they check to see that there is a continuum of experience. And if there is a gap in your experience because you are unemployed, which is a reason, or you are on maternity leave, or you took time out to go and do a postgraduate degree, or whatever you did, you must account for the time period. So in your case, they're going to immediately say your application arrives, they look at it in July, August, what has this person been doing in 2024? You have to show them. That's what Johanna's pointing out. Even if it's the same project, you must show either it as part of the same TER. Johanna, I'm not sure about that. Do you fill in an extra TER where nothing has changed in terms of your role on the projects? Or do you fill in the TER and explain the gap in the time in that TER?
Yes, Tom, where I picked it up, and in general, people must take note that your TES, that's the training and experience summary, must correspond exactly with a number of weeks or years which you list in the TES, must correspond with the TER summary of weeks. And she did indicate that she was on maternity leave for 13 weeks, September 23 to November 23. But that's where it ended. And yet she indicates that in the TR that she was working up till, say, June 2024. So you must just fill in another report. As Thomas mentioned, I think split it up and just tell us what you did as from December to June this year. It was actually a very good report, in my view. Your language is perfect, no spelling errors, nothing, and it creates a very good impression. But it's just that little hitch that I picked up.
Okay, thank you a lot. I will correct that.
Good.
Okay, Kolofelo, I hope that was of use. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Johan. That was very valuable. I just want to make sure, because the maternity leave is very material in these conversations. Are there is there anybody else in here? Obviously not referring to the MTM guys, but is there anybody else in here that has questions around the maternity leave and how to account for maternity leave? Tom, can you just see if there are any hands going up? Does anybody have any questions in your TRs or TOs?
I think what Johan is saying is it doesn't only apply to maternity leave. Any gap in activity within the engineering space must be recorded in the TES, so that your experience is actually documented and articulated with how many weeks and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Then your TERs are obviously based so that they track that exactly according to the TERs. And obviously a TER will end when your maternity leave or other reason for being absent from the profession starts, and it will recommence as the next TER when you pick work up again post it. So I think that's the lesson. If your experience audit that you've done with us in the spreadsheet is not articulated into the table in the application, then obviously there's going to be a problem, and that's what Johan is, I think, trying to articulate.
Thanks, Tom. 100%.
Yeah, so so Johan, that was really well said. Thank you for that. So Kolofelo, I think, and anybody else who's had any maternity leave, any reason to go on leave at all, you hopefully you've understood exactly how to account for that. And I think what Johan's also pointing out is that the assessors are looking for continuity and absolute integrity between the TES and the TERs and the engineering report. So there should be no gaps, and the periods and the start date and the end date should all align. The moment there's an anomaly, and because you're not allowed to have overlaps, the moment there's an overlap or there's a gap, you immediately ring all the wrong warning bells, and then someone's going to ask you questions that maybe just a little lapse of concentration or attention to detail is just going to open up Pandora's box that you really don't need opened up. So Kolofelo, I hope that was of use to you. Just go and tidy that last period and then account for the last period. So sort out the anomalies between the June, the September, the December to the June 2024, and you should be good to go. Johan's given you a nice accolade there to say very well prepared and well done and well written, all that. So congratulations on that behalf over here.
Kolofelo's hand is up, so she wants to respond.
Yes, Kolofelo, go.
Yes, one last thing. I wanted to check for the last period. At the end of it, do we say the end of June? Because I'm not even sure right now that when am I going to submit? Is it going to be in July? Because I wasn't sure, am I going to get reviews that I need to fix this and that? So do I say to current for the last one, or do I say to a specific month, just that maybe that week when I'm submitting? I'm not sure if I make sense.
Yeah, my comment would be to write it to the 30th of June.
Yes.
And even if your submission is the 15th, 16th, 17th of July or 1st of August, ECSA is not going to come and ask you, well, hang on a minute, what's happened in the last 2 weeks? Because they open the window, and once the window's open, the birds must fly through. I'm not sure, Johan, if you agree, or
100%. No, thanks, Tom. You are articulating it very, very good.
Or you say, January, whatever date it was that coincides with your maternity leave, and then you put no end date, you just say to date. Your problem is you've got to count the number of weeks. So you've got to put a peg in the sand. And I think for everybody in the session, their reporting should probably go till the end of June, at which stage the paperwork will take place. But your calculation should be to the end of June.
Agreed.
Yeah. 100%, and you could probably even end it off just by making that point, is that you're submitting to this point and you're awaiting the the final submission, etc. But as Tom and Johan said, that no one's going to have a go at you for a couple of weeks missing, but half a year missing is going to stand out like a very sore thumb. So Kolofelo, I hope that's been of value, and I hope it's been of value to others. I certainly got some good insights over there. So thank you for that. Thank you, Johan and Tom. I haven't given Friedrich a chance to have a go there, but Friedrich, is there anything that you wanted to add quickly?
Phil, the only thing that I've picked up from Johan's comment earlier is that specifically with the one with the many bullets, is that with those bullets, you do not get often, and that is in terms of the writing, to the specifics. Sorry, it's my old topic, but it needs to show what you have done and what you specifically did. It is not a case of you that a design has been done. That is not specific. It doesn't explain your role. It doesn't explain the problem and the solution and how you've implemented, or whether what regulations you've applied. You have to learn how to write, for example, 100 words and say exactly what you need to do. That's part of engineering work, is to write and be specific and be exact and to the point. That's really what I've heard.
100%. Thanks, Friedrich.
Yeah, I mean, that's very wise words there. So because I tell you what the problem is with the Unathi, the problem with bullets is that it can be construed as a task list, and that you were just participating in a task list, and it's a bit amorphous as to your actual role and your responsibility in that place. So I think we've done that. Thank you very much. Really good learning there. Then we had Morsa, who had a bit of a delay because she didn't submit enough, and as you've heard, that Johan hasn't had a chance to have a look at now. Johan, we have sent you the Morsa's full set of documentations. I had a quick look at it. It looked good to me. So we're looking forward to your hang on, I think maybe Johan has responded. Hold on, let me just get you out. Okay, so here's some context. Okay, sorry, this is my comment, which I'm just putting here because I liked Morsa's update. And she's saying, sorry, I haven't done the update, but this was the original one. I'm pleased to submit my engineering report for your final review. The report has been thoroughly reviewed by my two mentors, Nicholas Rose and Hilda Fillion, and I have incorporated their valuable feedback. That makes me smile, because that makes me think that this is a candidate who's taken the time and trouble to give it to her mentors, and then she's listened to the mentors and she's incorporated the feedback. Unfortunately, she only sent us limited information, so and she gave it to us in 2 formats. So she was doing everything proactively. Everything was on track, just a little bit short in the document. So Morsa, I have seen your update, and those have been sent through back to Louise, who will forward them to Johan. And as I say, it's just got a little bit caught up with all the other peripheral stresses that we have at the moment, but it's in the process, and Johan will have a look at that. The last one I want to have a quick look at over here, and this is going to be an important one, hopefully we got enough time, is Takalani has received an unusual bit of feedback suggesting a second review and certain outcomes to be reviewed once again. Tom, this is I've loaded your comment over here, which says that Philip, the ECSA statement in the interest of fairness implies that during the moderation process, some unfairness was identified. I'm not sure what that means, but maybe you can unpack that a bit more. And then I've said you said getting a second bite at the cherry rather than a deferred assessment is at least a better outcome, which you should grasp. Well, I think we all agree that, and we've discussed that. We can review the outcomes. So Takalani, you've got the particular outcomes, and I was wondering, Tom, how we talk to Takalani here around, or Johan might have insights into how to approach it. Do you think it's to do with the outcomes, or do you think there was an element of bias?
Normally what would happen is you either are registrable in which case you receive a letter to say, congratulations, you are registered, or you get deferred, which is the advice we were giving earlier on about those candidates that are not quite ready, and possibly our BTEC electrical maybe in that category, and wait the 6 months and get it done properly rather than take a chance now. But in this case, it's neither a deferral or a rejection or an approval.
Yeah.
It is the ECSA process telling you, or telling Takalani, that in doing their own internal quality audit, they feel there may have been some degree of unfairness in the process. Now, that's what I'll take that offline to Fran. Whether it's an administrator, and Johan will have more experience having been looking after many of those in the past, whether it's an administrator that has miscommunicated what he was or she was supposed to communicate. But to me, it's a little bit concerning, but whatever the reason is, it's more or less saying, let's see if another panel comes up with a different outcome. And then they start commenting, because normally it would have been a deferral, and then the outcomes that they've raised with Takalani, they would have suggested that she needs to go and do more on those. But having got through the technical review, and obviously it was we don't sit in the interview, so only Takalani has got first-hand experience of whether she feels the outcomes they've picked on were ones she maybe struggled with in the interview. I'm not sure. But, I'm just a bit worried that ECSA statement is more or less pointing a finger at themselves, which they generally don't like to do. In this case, they have, and that's something I'll need to have a conversation. I hope somebody doesn't get fired for it, but, it's like saying, look, I under-designed it, but sorry, I forgot. It doesn't work like that.
Takalani, could you tell us the particular outcomes? I'm just looking for the WhatsApp you sent me, and I can't find it in a short moment of time, because it was quite a broad selection. It wasn't like you were short on design or short on ethics or something. It covered quite a few of them. Can you give us some insight into how the professional review went, and what, in your view, might have been the issue? Were you being questioned unfairly on things? That wouldn't be the first time that's happened with ECSA, where you get someone who doesn't come from your space asking really, almost untoward questions. Can you give us some insight there, Takalani?
Okay. Okay. So just to give feedback on, let's say, the range of the reviewers. So there were 2 elderly men that are retired and 1 young male engineer that's currently working. So I registered under transport as a traffic engineer, and in terms of the panel that was there was a structural engineer, that's the young guy, and the 2 retired gentlemen. The one had experience in landfill waste, and the other guy had experience in water. So none of them really were either in pavement or transport or traffic, which I wanted to just play it by hand. So I then presented my presentation, and immediately after that, they did not ask me to go back to the presentation. So all they were looking at now was the report. So then they're looking at the report, and then they're saying, okay, so let's start with outcome number 1, and so on and so forth. So just to give an insight, so they highlighted, or I asked the moderator or the admin, which outcomes did they highlight? And he said mostly outcome number 1, number 2, number 3, number 9, and number 10. And so in terms of how the interview went, aligning to outcome number 1, my experiences in traffic analysis and a bit of pavement design. And what I then, I had gone through everything, and they were curious as to how I could conduct investigations and analysis without actually being on site. And I explained to them that the site is in Cameroon. So they sort of felt as though it's not good that I've never been on site. And I emphasized to them that I have been on site for other projects. For this specific project, I obtained all the reports that I required, and I also requested additional information to ensure that I can properly develop a solution. So aligning to outcome number 1, I really don't know what would be the reason. If that was the reason, then I also do feel like it was not justified. Outcome number 2, they asked quite aggressively what was my role, and I explained to them that I had to analyze the reports and determine what traffic data that I have access to, and then I requested additional data, to which then I did not get that specific data from the client, and I requested that we conduct traffic counts. So the traffic counts were then conducted by a local contractor, and I then wrote the reference of exactly what type of traffic data are required. Then I used that traffic data and developed a model to reinterpret that traffic data and develop a solution, and so on and so on and so forth. So their questions were, they kept on asking me what was my role, but I literally painted the entire thing. And then aligning to outcome 1 and 2, they asked me to define how my problem was complex, and I defined it aligning to the ECSA outcome. So I spoke to the 4 groups of characteristics of a complex problem, and I literally walked them through it, and they literally said, oh, they're not seeing it. So I was a bit confused in them reinterpreting, and eventually one of the reviewers said, oh, okay, so it was underdefined. Oh, okay. And then they just kept it moving. Then outcome number 3, I wasn't asked any questions really about it. They asked me how then, they just asked me briefly which document I used, and I spoke and I mentioned it to them, then they moved on. So they didn't really ask me questions on outcome number 3. So that also did feel like an undercut, or I don't know, they didn't ask me enough questions to understand whether I know my work or not. And then in terms of outcome 9 and 10, the problem that I used was a problem that I encountered on site. Something went wrong, and I had to consider different factors before I then compiled a list of types of solutions. And I didn't do that in isolation. I did mention that I compiled solutions, took to the employer's agent, which is a consultant, and they also did not have a solution because he really wanted to understand what exactly happened. So they asked me then whether it was a design issue or it was latent defects, and I explained to them that it could not be latent defects because this issue came up 2 weeks after I practically completed my structure. And then it almost felt as like I was insulting him, but I tried to cover it as much as possible. And then in between, the other reviewers would refer back to the other outcomes. So it was a bit of a confusing thing, and they would tell me what answer that they wanted to hear. So they'd say, what standard specs did you use? And I'm like, okay, but which project are you referring to? You know, so then they pick on a random project. It's almost as if they wanted to test me and wanted me to give answers that they were comfortable with. And then outcome number 10, I was not asked any questions. So I also now in retrospect feel as though I was not provided an opportunity to really illustrate my competency on the outcomes that they've listed as not sufficiently addressed. But however, there's nothing wrong with adding reinforcements and making sure that I can really, really relay my message for the next interview, but I do somewhat resonate with the moderator's answer.
Yeah, Johan, your thoughts there. It certainly sounds like I think thank goodness the moderator appears to have stepped in. That sounds like a not the happiest session. Johan, your thoughts there.
I'm a bit confused. Was this an experience appraisal interview, Takalani? Or was this the professional review at the end of the whole process?
This is the professional review at the end of the process.
Yeah. You know, I want to refrain from commenting on the 3 reviewers. It won't be ethical from my side. All I can do to sort of comfort you is over the 18 years I've been with ECSA, the most difficult sub-disciplines of a main discipline like civil to register in was transport engineering, and then the other one just slipped my mind now. Structural engineering. They're very strict, and they've got a strict set of I won't say questions, but standards that they want to assess. And I'm not saying you didn't work up to that standard. But to comfort you, on the other hand, that's what Tom has mentioned. You were actually deferred for 12 months. And it's difficult to get in between now. Have you already received your letter of deferral? Or not yet?
No. So
Yeah.
so it wasn't a deferral as such. So they, as Tom explained, it's almost as if they accept that the moderators identified some sort of unfairness in the actual procedure. So I didn't really ask whether it was recorded or not, but I think whatever comments came from the initial review of the report versus the recording versus what the interviewers said, it just seems as though it wasn't aligning, and they then are saying, let us give you a second interview with a new panel. But they haven't given me a date yet.
Oh, that's even better. You know, then you must just try to prepare very well on those 3-5 outcomes that they found lacking, and be ready for the second interview.
I think they also,
It's just a delay in the process, as I see it from my side.
and I think they also, I think they're mixing things up, because when they were interviewing on outcome 1, they cross-questioning you essentially on outcome 4 and what the hell are you doing on site. It's completely possible to do all of the initial review and analysis, etc., on a desktop exercise. You don't have to go to site to do that. People rely on experts like MTM to give them all the data and accurate data and verified data, etc., so that engineers can make complex decisions. So I think you got a bum steer, Takalani. I think Johan's been professional and refraining from commenting over there. Tom, you've given your comments. I think in the interest of fairness, I think you've got a moderator.
I will be a little bit less diplomatic than Johan, because he needs to be, and I will be professional but not diplomatic. I will take it offline, because I don't know that there is an outcome within ECSA's policy that says you can be re-interviewed. I know that you can ask for it to be reconsidered but normally that request comes from the candidate. In this case, it's ECSA saying we would like to do it again. And then I think Frederick will know, in our sessions with Fran and with Bridget, we've emphasized this issue, as Johanna said. In the civils, it's particularly difficult that you've got these subsets. If you don't have traffic and transportation people interviewing the MTM guys when they get there, then we're on a hiding to nothing, because there's no ways they're going to be able to have a water conversation or a structures or a solid waste site conversation. So, the young structures guy obviously was outweighed by his 2 elder, more experienced assessors, but given none of them, and maybe ECSA's realizing that they allocated the wrong people. So it is a problem. It sounds to me, as I agree with Johan, that Takalani has a chance to remedy it, and let's hope that it won't be the same panel that would undertake the reassessment, because then that would again infer that it wasn't unfair enough. You must make it more unfair. But I will deal with Fran and see what we can get from it in anticipation of the next round. But then we need to go and revisit Takalani's final presentation and just see where in it are there potential gaps that we can reinforce or she can articulate better.
So here they are. Here's Takalani's documents. I've dropped them back into the thing so that when we get a gap to circle back on this, we can go. Takalani was good enough to an hour ago or 2 hours ago just to send it to me. So here we are when we can go back. But Tom, I think that is the right way to go. I think with the relationship that we have with ECSA, which is such a which is really such a healthy working environment, let's just take this offline and think. But what is relevant, the moral of the story here for everyone, is that the professional review process is not a walk in the park. You're going to end up with people, and Tom will tell you, over all of the years that I've been working on the education and training panel with Tom, and all the years before that I've been involved in this, there are some nightmare stories that come out of professional reviews, and some, you know, incredibly unprofessional environments, and youngsters actually immigrating because of the way they are treated and just getting the hell out of South Africa because they lose, and within very short spaces of time they become registered in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, etc., because they got the necessary Washington Accord recognition, and they just get going. So it is something that I know ECSA is working on it. Tom will take it offline. Tom, we've run out of time. I just wanted to very quickly, Nadir has just popped something in. Nadir is very active in here, and so I just wanted to give us a chance for that. So Takalani, we'll get the teams on it, but it'll probably happen in the background. Nadir's questions, I have a few random queries. Since overlaps are not allowed in the time period, and there are times when a project gets stuck in a client review or tender phase for years, can we split a project up into multiple phases and place them into different TRs? Project 1, tender, project 1, construction admin. So question 1, I think that is the answer, but Johan, could you answer that?
My answer would be no. There's just 56 weeks in a year. So you can't, start with project A, say in January, and then simultaneously start with project 2, and then in the following year start with project 1 once again. So no.
I think what she's saying is she's not looking at duplicating. I agree with you. You account for 52 weeks. But what may happen is that the project you were working on in, let's say, year 1 goes into a state of stagnation because it's waiting for client or whatever, and then you circle back to that project, but only in a different reporting period in a subsequent year. I don't think there's a problem reporting on a project over multiple time frames, but you can't report on the same time frame twice.
That's right. No, 100%. Yeah. Thanks for correcting me, Tom.
100%. So Nadira, what I would say to you is that, you know, some of the reasons sometimes for writing different TRs is either big project gaps, or you came onto the project in a different role. So if you were in the project tender stage, that's quite a different role to the sort of the construction process and the admin. So it's well within scope to be able to write different TERs. So that's what the thing. But just make sure that you account for 52 weeks in a year, and that you've got those, and you can cross-reference. So you can cross-reference TER1 to TER3 if that is the process, and TER2 in between is possibly where you're doing something completely different. Just make sure that the assessor can strap the things in. There's no harm in coming back, but don't have a project that's got a big hiatus in the timeline and then you just continue. That's going to open up all sorts of questions. So I hope that we've answered your question there. The second one, quickly, before we run out of time, is I'm in the water space, but am currently doing my MSc in water and waste and resource management. It is a coursework and thesis degree, hence it is not going to be one of my TRs as a full thesis would be, but I would like to make mention of it in part of my IPD. Is that acceptable? Tom?
100%.
Yes.
Yeah, very, very much so. Any continuing education, particularly at a postgraduate field, and where the content enhances the workspace in which you are operating, very definitely. The assessors will like that.
Jan, anything to add?
No, 100%. I agree.
Great. I don't think we need to belabor that one. Okay, so Nadira, if you're in the session, I think you must be because you dropped us in right now. Have we answered your questions?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
Phil, I see Cheryl has popped under the chat. Good point, Cheryl. I think the problem ECSA has is that there are not enough registered professionals at a level at which they can perform the role of assessors on their various teams. So that's the reason why you've got a male biased panel. But you're quite right. I'll ask Fran the same question as in this case, why were there no ladies to ensure that there is at least some gender sensitivity. But once we've got all of you in this session registered, you can all become ECSA assessors in the next 5 to 10 years, and then the problem will go away.
Yeah, and that's such a good point from Cheryl. I think that is a very real point, especially in a in a very paternalistic, very male chauvinist kind of environment. You can't believe the war stories we hear in the UK, which I thought was supposedly sophisticated in terms of the struggle that women have at the various different things. So it's a very real issue, Cheryl. Thank you for bringing that up. Cheryl, I just want to ask while we're here, before we all go, are you ready to rock and roll? Because we haven't seen your submission, but clearly Tom will have a look at that being the academic route, or are you waiting until we get the final button from ECSA that they've got the policy in place? Cheryl?
Just forgive me, my technical non-proficiency is showing. Just to respond to you, yes, I am definitely on the road. I fell off the road. I'm back on the road. I'm crawling very slowly. I'm grappling with my engineering report now, but that is it. That's the last thing. And then I'm going to take Tom's advice and send it to the people that need to see it. So I'm pushing to submit just to do it and get that valuable feedback, etc. But cycling back to Takalani, I just want to applaud her for the excellent grasp that she presented of her perspective of how things went down. I like to think of it as a shakedown. I think that is such wonderful and exemplary professionalism, and I just want to commend on that, because I don't know that I could do that. And it's a credit to her and her readiness. So I really just want to wish her the very best of luck going forward, because I do think that she's there in that magical space, because it comes through whenever she speaks in all the different ways and spaces that she speaks. I just wanted to put that out there. And I do think that there is, unfortunately, I think when the gender representation is not there, I do think, because in academia we have the gender representation, which is one of the beautiful things, but it doesn't mean that we get an easy ride. In fact, it's harder. But it's not your ego, but you feel good when you win, because you want it in all the ways you want to win it. So just kudos to her in every way. And the last point, so we are exposed to, the stereotype of men and etc. in this group, but she's also enlightened. So ECSA needs a bit of a wake up just in that regard. They should put all the enlightened people into the panels and not this disconnection. And yes, I'd be happy to evolve if I'm successful in registering, to not terrorize people like this. Okay, bye. Enough from me.
Thanks, Cheryl. Okay, good input there, and good to see the woman power sticking together. Takalani, I have to reiterate what Cheryl said. I think the way you presented it to us showed professional restraint and understanding and tolerance, and I think that'll take you very far as a professional engineer, because you'll be able to manage people. So well done for tolerating and not losing your cool and clubbing them with something. I've done enough. I think Tom's going to be getting back to some of the MTM people on some of the updates on the policies and things like that. We're going to be explaining to a couple of the academics and some of the other candidates who we don't think are ready this round, or maybe they'd really need to spend another year or two. They have to really get their act together with mentors, their writing skills, those sort of things. We'll do that all privately. So I think we're ready to hand out. I'm going to just ask Johan for any closing comments. Johan?
No, I've got nothing to add. I think it was a very worthwhile meeting that we had. Thanks.
Thank you, Johan. Always appreciate your input, and we appreciate you and the team. Friedrich?
No, Phil, I can't add more to all the wisdom that was shared. I hope my few sentences added. But Johan, it sounds like we are talking the same language, specifics, and not having gaps and all of those type of things. I'm hearing the same story. So we have not shared new wisdom. It's all old wisdom that still need to be complied with.
That's right.
Yeah. As I pick up every single day as we do this program, is that you can take a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. So we have to work that out. Tom, last but not least.
Phil, I don't know if Cheryl's hand is a legacy hand, or if there's something else. She's maybe got up from crawling to now stuttering along. Cheryl,
no, Cheryl still crawling, no hand.
Okay.
Still crawling, no hand.
Legacy,
no, Phil,
legacy
from my side, all good. Obviously, in case the candidates are not aware, those submitting, the version of the submission that we as Make Team will review must be the ECSA ready submission. So all the guideline stuff that's contained in a form, the template, can be deleted and removed once you and your immediate supervisor who need the guidance on word count and so on and so on and so on. That does not constitute part of the application or the submission. In fact, it works against you in terms of the total number of pages. We want to see your application in ECSA submission ready so that we
Yes.
are looking at it, as Johannes explained, like an assessor would review it and what they would see. Thanks.
Yeah, 100%. And remember the golden rule. If it says 100 words per outcome, if it says 50 pages, if it says don't color in the flow chart, if it's, you know, all of that, just listen to the word. Don't be rebellious. Just follow the recipe and you'll be in good place. So I don't have, Amanda's asking about the academic space. Amanda, we don't have time to deal with that, but we can certainly deal with it in one of the interactive sessions going forward, if that's an interest area of yours. So thank you very much,
Phil,
everyone.
Sorry, Phil. Again, at the President's Forum, and strangely enough, Chris Campbell raised it from ECSA, is the issue is, remember, I keep saying and stressing this, that the outcomes do not change in terms of what they are and where you come from. So whether you've gone the alternative route, walkabout, whatever it is, like the majority of the MTM team, whether you've gone and done a B-Eng or a BSc Eng or a BTech or a BET or whatever you've done, or whether you are now in an academic space, the outcomes stay the same. What will change is what you explain that you do. That, I think, is the critical part. So the academics need to start writing up their TERs, like you've heard Cheryl is doing and one or two others are doing, and start articulating their work experience to show how in their academic space they have met the outcomes. Bridget, Fran has assured us that when an academic is interviewed, that one of the assessors will be an academic. They may have a bit more luck than Takalani had when none of them were transport people. But I think at the end of the day, if there's an academic, those people often have the role of explaining to their peers, look, you're not understanding what it is this person does. So, you know, setting assessments, developing curriculum and all that sort of stuff is the work of an academic. It's no different from defining the scope of a project, etc., etc. So I think you must just not feel discouraged. There's not going to be a recipe that comes from ECSA that says fill in your name and paste here. That's never going to happen, despite the fact that they are looking at more specific guidelines, particularly for the IDOEW for academics, more so than RO2 STA. There's not going to be an RO2 STA bracket academic.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, everyone, thank you very much. There will be a recording for those who missed it. Please continue the good work. Send us the stuff. We've given you the recipe to send it through. So make sure you give us everything we can. It'll go through to the review guys. We'll get it back to you as soon as possible. And then that's your final pass. Whatever our feedback is, implement that feedback and then go forth and multiply. So thanks very much, everyone. And see you in a couple of weeks' time. Cheers for now.
Thanks, everybody. Tom. Cheers now.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.